Hello, you guys, and welcome back to On Point. I took a week off last week because I went on a vacation. I went to the Bahamas. It was incredible, and I really didn't want to come back, but alas, we're here, ready to work, ready to chat, and it was kind of nice to just, take a week off and just think about topics I want to talk to you guys about. And today, I want to do an episode fully on the ballet industry, my experience growing up in ballet. This is going to be pretty niche. So, if you're a ballerina out there or in the dance industry, you're definitely going to know the things I'm talking about. And if you're not, then this might be a little bit interesting to you. I'll try to do my best to explain because it is so bizarre and it's whole other world. Even when I'm talking to people now in my life or, with my boyfriend or new friends that I've developed that don't know this side of me, ballet is literally my whole personality. It's a whole other language and a whole other world that I have in my brain that I think is pretty cool. I think it's cool that I can meet these people and they don't even know that I spent my whole life doing this, that I know this variation from this thing, and that I know all this French terminology and what shoe I use, what maker, how I sew point shoes. I think it's cool that I have this whole other world, in my back pocket. That's not my full career, but it's fun to revisit all the time. And I think it's such an amazing thing. Ballet goes back so many years, hundreds of years. It's obviously no surprise that ballet contributes a lot to body image issues and just perfectionist issues, competitiveness, like any other sport or art form, really, I think it's the same thing if you look at gymnastics or figure skating or soccer or basketball. There's all these things that you have to try to fit into, and it's just different for each type of art form in different sports. So I'm going to explain ballet from my perspective, my experience with it from the very beginning, and then kind of go through what I struggled with and also my advice to you guys. We're doing a full deep dive into the ballet industry today, so let's get it started. So if you're a regular On Point listener, you have definitely heard me talk a little bit about my sweat and body odor problems. Being a ballerina and being an active person, obviously body odor is an everyday concern for me. So that is why I'm really excited to tell you guys about Lumi Whole Body Deodorant for pits, privates, and beyond. Because let's face it, our underarms aren't the only place we have odor. I am always on the lookout for good deodorant products and brands, and that's why I was so excited to try Lumi. Lumi Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for On Point listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi Starter Pack with code LUNA at lumideodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumideodorant.com and use code LUNA. That's Lumi, L-U-M-E, deodorant.com and use code LUNA. So I started out in ballet when I was just 3 years old, the ripe age of 3, which thinking back now is absurd. I mean, I guess it's not. I guess I see 3-year-old toddler ballet at my studio, but just to think that I did that is really nuts. And I don't really know why. I don't remember, obviously. I don't remember anything before age 13, and that's a whole other issue I have. But I think I kind of started it because my sister was in ballet and in dance at the time. My sister wasn't so naturally inclined to be a dancer, and that's something we laugh about all the time. But for some reason it came natural to me, and it was so much fun for me. I loved it. I don't really remember this time period. I have a couple flashbacks of elementary school me in ballet or in dance. But I do remember from a very young age when I was in maybe it was first grade or second grade, I was a full-on tap dancer. That was my thing. I went to a studio at the time that they kind of specialized in tap, and they did all these competitions, and I got on the competition team with tap, and it was so much fun, and it was more like Broadway style tap. So we wore like heeled tap shoes, and we went to all these different dance competitions and conventions, and I just loved tap. I loved the rhythm of it. I loved everything about it. But I also did ballet classes at the studio, and the teachers I could tell that I obviously was more like naturally inclined to do ballet than the other girls there. And I think maybe my passion at the time for that kind of took off, and I decided to move to this other studio that specialized in ballet in the area. So I think I was in about like 4th grade at the time. When that happened, I went to my new studio that I grew up at, that I still dance at now. And I remember like my mom had lied about my age. Like, I literally remember this memory. I went to the front desk to Darby. Darby is I just love her so much. She works the front desk, and I went to her for the first time, which is so weird to think about. And I remember my mom was like, "Oh yeah, she's 11," but I was actually 10. So my mom hustled me into like the higher level class, and then I walk into this class, and I remember, and if you guys know me, you know my best friend in the world is Kara. And I walked into this class, and Kara was there with my other friends, like, that I ended up becoming friends with, and they were like, "Oh my god, hi," but everyone was a year older than me. I ended up sticking with that level for the rest of my like whole entire dance thing. So I was always a level above what I should have been. But I think they did find out my age eventually, and they just like stuck with me to be in those levels. But that's just funny. So I moved to that studio. Then I started doing Nutcracker. I did the mouse in the Nutcracker. I did the kitten. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen my posts about all of that. And it was so much fun for me. I really did love ballet. And the studio was very, very good. The training that we studied under at my studio was ABT syllabus, which is Cicchetti, which is the Italian form of dance. So if people don't know, like, technique of dance, if people don't know, there's basically like, to me, there's like 4-ish, I guess. There's Cicchetti, which is the Italian one. There's Vaganova, which is Russian. There's Balanchine, which is, started with the New York City Ballet by George Balanchine. And then there is, there's so many. There's Bournonville, which was like kind of Danish, I think. There's so many different styles, but we studied under Cicchetti and ABT syllabus, which is very like technical based. So that was fun too for me. I didn't realize until later that I was definitely not, an ABT dancer, but it was good for me. It was fun. Okay, actually, when I moved to this new studio the year after, one of the reasons I remember moving to the studio is I wanted to do pointe, and that like studio offered that. So I went on pointe when I was about 10 years old in 5th grade. I remember getting my first pair of pointe shoes. I got a pair of Grishko 2007s. Ugh, awful shoe. Don't know why I was putting those for my first shoe, but I feel like everyone at our studio was put in those. I don't know why. Went on pointe when I was 10. Then in 6th grade, I had like pointe parts and the Nutcracker and stuff. But I think since I was a year younger than everyone else, I went on pointe earlier than everyone else did. And I think that was kind of wrong for me. I think I needed a little bit more ankle training. I didn't have that like ballet technique training that I should have had before I went on pointe. So I remember pointe was kind of a struggle for me. I'd never had the best facilities, like best arches or the best turnout. Like that was always, I never had technically the best ballet, like form or body. Not even in like a weight situation, but just in like bone structure and my arches and bow legs and, everything didn't really like line up for me to be a good ballet dancer. So 6th grade, I was kind of struggling with pointe. I didn't really love it. And I was like, you know what? I want to be a full contemporary dancer, because I had that kind of like tap, influence, but I also kind of had this contemporary drive that I was pretty good at this ballet studio. And I feel like a lot of my contemporary teachers favorited me at the time. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. I'm a contemporary dancer. So I remember in 6th grade I did YAGP, which is the biggest like young ballet competition in the US, and I did Cupid and I did Point, and it was awful. Like, I still have the video up on YouTube on like my family channel, but I just remember Point really was my thing. And the next year we all did a competition, like the little, competition group. And I was like, I'm not going to do my ballet variation. I'm going to do a contemporary variation. And I was the only girl that did that, because I was like, this is my new thing. I want to be a contemporary dancer. So that was 7th grade. And then after that, my parents decided to move out of our childhood home. My siblings were gone. They were in college. My parents were basically splitting up. So I don't know like what happened, but I all of a sudden was swept away to New York City. My mom took me to New York and randomly set up all these auditions for me to audition for like a dance school, like a dance public school. So she set up this audition for this place called Ballet Tech, and it was like a public school for dance, meaning like you go and you have your school curriculum, and then you literally go upstairs and you have ballet or dance classes. It was really rare for this school to accept new students. Like, all these students had been there since they were literally in kindergarten. So I randomly got this audition because this one woman that worked there really liked me. And I got accepted, and it was so weird because no new student really has ever been brought in at that like age or time. And I just remember like that was such a crazy experience. Let me tell you, like, the school was owned by this guy named Elliot Feld, and he is a famous like choreographer and dancer, and his style of dancing was like modern. It was bizarre. It was strange, and he hated me. I think he didn't like that I wasn't trained under him. So I was the only girl that was out of all of his pieces. I never did any of the shows. Like, I was never a part of anything. But I would say, and I'm not trying to be cocky, I definitely was one of the best students, ballet students there for sure. But I mean, that was a crazy experience. I would go to school. I was 13, would take the subway from Long Island City and go to this ballet school. I had a locker, you get undressed and you go into your ballet class, and you go back downstairs to math, and then you go back up to your modern class. You go back to, that was crazy. So cool and fun, but like definitely very different than what I was used to. The training was good. It definitely wasn't what I was used to or had before. I didn't get performing opportunities. I didn't feel like it was, I don't know. It was strange. It just like sucked that the guy didn't like me, so I didn't like him, and it was just like weird. But that was the year that I really started with all my body issues, and I've talked about it a lot. Go listen to my body image podcast episode if you want to hear more about that. But that's when it all kind of sparked for me. I would come home from this long day of dance in school and go straight to my like gym in my apartment building. I just started tracking my weight. I just hated myself, and we weren't allowed to wear skirts at the time. We had to wear like a uniform, which was like this terrible leotard that was like black, high front, high back, and tights, and it was just like I was gaining a womanly figure. I was miserable, hated my body. I would go cry to this one woman that liked me like every day. It was crazy, and she's so sweet. I love her. I think her name was Christine Sari. Amazing woman. She was great. I love her so much. Anyway, after that year, which was a little bit rough, and it wasn't my favorite training that I have gotten, but it was a cool experience for me to go. I decided to move back to my hometown. I don't know how I got my mom to do it, but I did. And I went back to my home studio, and I remember, my director that was there, who's still my director now, she and I had already had such a bond with her prior to me moving, and then when I moved back, I had like almost like an audition with her, which was funny because she already knew me, but at the end of it, it was her and Darby, two of like the pillars of my life still, like these two women. And they both looked at me and my mom, and they were like, we would like to offer, because basically at the time, me and my mom had no money and we didn't have anywhere to live. And I didn't have money to support a dance career. Like genuinely, we didn't. And that was the thing about the New York school, was that it was publicly funded by the government. So it was completely free, which is, you know, if you are a dancer and you train, you know how expensive it is. Like, I would say, I don't know how much tuition was, but I think it came out to about like $2,000 or more a month to do the ballet training that I had to do when I came back to my hometown. So at the time, my director and Darby, they looked at me and they were like, we would like to offer you a full scholarship. And me and my mom were just crying. I was so happy to be back with all my friends and getting this like really good training. I get to do Nutcracker again. Like, I was just so happy and grateful. And thank God to that. Like, I still talk about that experience to this day, because I don't think I would have been able to dance if I didn't get that scholarship. I probably would never have started my YouTube channel about different ballet videos and stuff, and I probably wouldn't be here. So I really do owe it to them, and that was a really crazy cool experience. So if you're a regular On Point listener, you have definitely heard me talk a little bit about my sweat and body odor problems. Being a ballerina and being an active person, obviously body odor is like an everyday concern for me. So that is why I'm really excited to tell you guys about Lumi Whole Body Deodorant for pits, privates, and beyond. Because let's face it, our underarms aren't the only place we have odor. I am always on the lookout for good deodorant products and brands, and that's why I was so excited to try Lumi. Lumi was created by an OBGYN. It's a uniquely formulated, pH-balanced deodorant. It's aluminum-free, skin-safe, and clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours. I personally love Lumi because it is a whole body deodorant. I have really sweaty palms and feet, so the fact that I found a product for those areas is amazing. Lumi Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for On Point listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi Starter Pack with code LUNA at lumideodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumideodorant.com and use code LUNA. That's Lumi, L-U-M-E, deodorant.com, and use code LUNA. What was cool about my home studio that I went back to was that our teachers were all so different and they all taught very different styles. I ended up going into the pre-professional program the next year, which was basically Monday, Wednesday, Friday, an added class to our schedule that was like a 2-hour ballet class from 1:30 to 3:30. And what was so cool about our training is that we had so many different styles. Like, we had Romy Cars from the New York City Ballet, and she taught every Monday, and that was all Balanchine based, you know. And we had Francine, our teacher Francine, who taught us Balanchine style, which I ended up loving. We'll get into that. And then, you know, we had Kim, our director, who she was trained Shiketti mostly, an ABT syllabus. And then we would have this guy named Patrick who, like, oh God, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what that was intense. But we had so many different things. We also had to do contemporary and jazz to, like, be a part of the show. So that was cool. Like, they forced us basically to be multifaceted dancers, which I loved. So that was amazing. And the training there just was like unlike anything I've ever gotten. And I just loved it. After my 9th grade year, I had auditioned for the first time for summer intensives. And if you're not a dancer listening to this, then you wouldn't know. But basically a whole other world of the ballet industry is summer intensives that you attend. And every like main ballet company kind of offers them. Like, the New York City Ballet has SAB, which is their training school that you can audition for their summer intensive. It's like a 5-week normally program of intense training that you spend your summers doing. So the main ones are kind of like SAB, you have Boston Ballet, you have Pacific Northwest Ballet, there's ABT, there's Miami City Ballet, and every January we would all go to these auditions. all of us, and audition for these summer intensives and see, you know, if we get in or not. And it was so intense, so intense and competitive and crazy. But I had auditioned for Boston Ballet, and I got in that year, and I had decided to go. So I went my 9th grade summer year, and I remember I had to do a GoFundMe to get the funds for it. These summer intensives, you guys, they cost about like, they probably come out to about like $6,000 total with housing and everything. Like, they are not cheap at all. And I had started a GoFundMe to go. I went, and I had honestly a terrible experience. And I'm also like a homebody. I never do sleepovers. I never do anything like that. And I'm also not a dorm sharer person. Like, I don't even like sleeping next to anyone new in my bed or anywhere, because it's like, if they so much as make one noise and this is my sleep, I'm going to freak out. So that was like a whole new experience to be away from home like that. And I had auditioned, because once you go there, you have like a placement class where they like see what level you're supposed to be in. And I got put into level 1A, which is like the worst level. And all my friends were in level like 4 or 5, which is like the highest one. So somehow, I guess I had a terrible placement class, because I got placed into this 1A class, and I'm not even like gonna brag or anything. I definitely did not belong there. But I just had the worst. It was like, Boston Ballet training is so intense. We would have like technique class, a 2-hour technique class, followed by a 2-hour technique class, followed by a variations. Like, it was too much. That shit was crazy. Like, and I think everyone can relate if you've been to Boston or are considering it. Like, everyone says the same thing, that like training is like pretty rigorous. The woman who ran the school there, her name was Margaret Chasey, and she danced with the New York City Ballet. She was ballerina trained, so that was the only thing that I really did love there, was the fact that we had these really true ballerina classes. And she actually really loved me, and I don't remember if that year I'd gotten into the year-round program or not. I think I maybe chose not to sign up, because basically at these summer intensives, you go for the training, but you also go to be seen to be accepted into their year-round. So if I'd gone there and really wanted to take my career seriously, I would be like, oh, I'm interested in the year-round, and then you get into Boston Ballet year-round, and you would move to wherever that is and like literally live there when I was in 9th grade. But I knew that wasn't really what I wanted to do. But, you know, at the time, like, I had one of my best friends, Naomi, she went to SAB summer intensive, got into year round. Now she's in the New York City Ballet. Like, that's what you do if you want to take your career far. And it doesn't have to be necessarily so early, but, you know, after one of these summer intensives, if you want to have a career in that company, you normally just get into the year round and, you know, go under their training. I came back from Boston Ballet, and now we're in like my sophomore year, and it was good. I don't really remember much of my sophomore year. I do remember I would go to my school, and my school was only like 5 minutes away from the dance studio. So I'd walk over there, and I would sit at Starbucks for hours, or I'd sit in the back of the studio and wait for my classes, because my mom had been working all day and I didn't drive at the time. So I'd always be sitting there and waiting. And one day during my sophomore year, my director, Kim, she called me out from, you know, one of the dressing rooms. And this guy who she like works with composing music, because my studio, they do Nutcracker, but we also do a spring ballet. And sometimes it's an original work where my director completely choreographs her own ballet. Like, we had done Noah's Ark at the time. She choreographed it, and also this guy composed a whole score for it. There's like the Sea Princess, which was also an original thing that she did. And basically, she called me out from the back, and she pulled me into her office with this guy and was like, so I have this idea for a new original ballet, and I want it to be Camelot, and I only see you as being Guinevere, who's like the main character with the long blonde hair. And this is like my dream, because I never got like the absolute best parts that I could have gotten for my level. Like, the year that I got one of the, like, that you could be the porcelain doll, I got like the doll under it. Or the year that you would get Clara, I got like the other, like Lady Licorice. Like I never got like the main thing that everyone got at the level. So this was like the craziest thing I could hear, that I would be the main part, was like incredible and amazing. And I was so excited, but she was like, yeah, it'll probably be in like 2 years. So it's kind of crazy to like tell a kid that, because I couldn't tell anyone. And also it kind of restricts me from doing or going anywhere year round, you know? So that's kind of like, okay, well, I'm telling you this because we want you to stay here. So that was something I had in the back of my mind, which was pretty crazy. And I was so excited about it. Like, so cool. Couldn't wait for it. That summer, I went to Miami City Ballet for their summer intensive. I remember I was supposed to go to PNB, which is also a really good one, but they like had over accepted people. So it turned out that I like, even though I got in, they like couldn't take me because there wasn't housing or something. So I went to Miami, which I got into as well. And I remember like the housing, we stayed at the University of Miami dorms, and that shit was crazy. Like, I don't know. The dorm life is not for me. That's for sure. I feel like that summer was my favorite summer intensive because we're in Miami, and like every day I would just go to the beach after dance, and that was like amazing for me. But the girl who ran the school at the time, it had just like switched over. I remember she was new, and she ran the school. Her name was Arancha, I think. Arancha. And she was intense. And I think she danced with the New York City Ballet as well. But I mean, this woman was intense. Let me tell you, everyone was just, like afraid of her. For some reason, this woman really liked me. It was great. It was amazing. She was very intense, and she was hated on everybody, but she really did like me, and she favorited me. And like at these summer intensives, like there are favorites in the class, and that's like another whole thing that you got to deal with in the ballet industry, is like the competitiveness at such a young age is just so crazy. But she really liked me, and there was like a sign up sheet that you could be like, if you want to be considered for the year-round program, you can sign up here. And every girl does it, really, to like, everyone wants to get into a year-round program. That means like technically you're going to be trained to be in the company, you know? So I had signed up for it, but, you know, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, but I'm supposed to be doing this ballet that's based around me. It was supposed to be that year, like the next school year that I would be going back. So if I went year-round to this place, then I couldn't do this main part. Lo and behold, on the last day of the summer intensive, I got an email that I was accepted into the year-round program, and I was the only girl in this level to be accepted. And it was amazing. It was crazy. Like, I remember the day she brought in, like, this director brought in other teachers, and they were all like pointing at me and looking at me like, do you think so? Whatever. It was like so intense. But I'd gotten in, which is like so cool and incredible. But I was also like I do want to do this main ballet. Like, do I want to go and move away from home right now when me and my mom had just moved into this new apartment this summer? Like, that summer I went. So like, do I want to go move away from home in Miami to like be a full ballet dancer now? Like, that just means basically that's my life for the rest of my life, you know? I went home and I was thinking about it, and I always knew, like, I mean, I always had that dream of like, okay, maybe I will be a ballet dancer for the rest of my life. But I kind of knew in the back of my head that wasn't like my main thing that I wanted to do with my life. I feel like some people, like I had friends that just, that's their passion and their drive. Nothing's going to stop them. Nothing's going to hold them back. That's what they want with their life. And I didn't have that definitive, like, I want to do this and like, I'm ready for this rigorous training. Because if I did have that, then I would have gone to that year-round program and pursued that. But in my head, I was kind of like, do I want to go do that, you know, potentially not get into a company, go through rigorous training and not perform and not be the main anything? Or I could be at my home studio, still get training, have this high school experience, and be the lead role in a ballet that I'm probably never going to do again, because I kind of knew I wasn't going to go professional with ballet. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to choose the high school experience option and the fact that I get to do this main part in a ballet, because that was more important to me at the time. I Probably shouldn't have signed up for that sign up sheet, but whatever. Junior year, I came home. My director ended up saying that we're actually going to be doing the ballet the next year, which, I mean, it still didn't matter. I couldn't have gone either way if I wanted to do it. But that year, I feel like that year I really got a lot better at ballet. Like, Miami City Ballet really was good for me. I came home and I got Snow Queen in the Nutcracker my junior year, which is like kind of unheard of. Most people that get Snow Queen are seniors. So that was like amazing. I was given this role and this responsibility, and it just kind of like really upped my game. Like I was really into ballet and my art, and at the time, like I was training, and that was a year that my body, like, maybe I wasn't the healthiest, but I was just super like training like all the time. I was half homeschooled, so I would go to school like till like 8:30 to 10:30 and take like one class, and I would go home and do my online school, which was bullshit. I literally wouldn't. I would just one day a month maybe sit down and just cheat my way through the whole thing, to be honest with you. But I would dance basically every day from like 1 to 9 was like the window. So I was in dance all day. I was still on scholarship this whole time with my studio, and I would work the snack bar at the studio to kind of like make up for it. I would do all the fundraisers, everything that she needed me to do so that I could like kind of pay off the scholarship that I got. That year, I auditioned in January for SAB, which is like basically the top training school that you can go to in my eyes if you want to be a Balanchine dancer, because the New York City Ballet is like, you know, the biggest Balanchine company. And I had auditioned for SAB for 5 years. It's like something I've always wanted to go to. And if you want to be like, everyone wants to go to SAB that I saw, you know, and I had never gotten in, but this year I'd gotten in, and I was like obviously shocked, and had to go. So I had gone that summer, and I didn't live in a dorm. I lived with my friend. And the training at SAB is weird because it's not as rigorous. You only have like 2 classes a day. But that was kind of perfect for me because at the time, I was kind of like, I like ballet and it's so fun, but it's not what I want to do forever and for life. And I know my YouTube channel, I think I'd started it at the time. So I was also really involved in that. SAB had like all these amazing teachers that are legendary. So to learn from them was amazing. The woman who ran the school at the time, I think her name was Kay Mazzo. She's still there. But we had class with her maybe once a week, and that was really special and cool. And there was like one time where she called me out and was like, see, everyone needs to be doing the Petit Allegro like Luna, like this girl, Luna. And I got to like come out and show it. And I was like, that was the craziest experience of my life because I didn't really think I was that good. I was definitely not like on any level at any of those girls were at SAB, like in any way. And I didn't have the natural facilities and the good arch and the good turnout that like I feel like you need to have for dance. I always struggled with that. I came home from that summer. That's when I kind of started my YouTube channel for real. I got Snow Queen again. I signed with a management for YouTube that January, I think. And since then, I was just so involved in YouTube. That was the year that I ended up doing that main part, my senior year of high school. And that was amazing. But I just knew like ballet is not what I want to do full time. And, you know, at that time I would have been auditioning for all these companies, but I didn't choose to do that because I just knew it wasn't for me. I was also really negative about myself at the time. I kind of never wanted to do ballet again. I was like, I actually can't handle this lifestyle, and I want to be able to eat for the rest of my life, and I want to be able to not care about what my body looks like and wear, like, I remember I couldn't even wear leggings to school. I was like, leggings, I'm too fat for that. And it was just so crazy. Like the mental state of ballet is just ridiculous, which I'll talk about more. But I did Camelot. I was Guinevere. It was amazing. You guys would remember that if you watched my YouTube channel at the time. And then YouTube became my full career. I fully quit ballet after high school. I was like, honestly, never want to do it again. Never needed to be in a class again. I just kind of had this hatred for it. And I just did YouTube full time. And then during like quarantine, post-quarantine, I kind of found my passion for it again in a way of like, okay, my mental trauma from it is a little bit healed. Like, why don't I go and appreciate the things that I do love about it and go into it with a like mindset of, okay, I don't need to do this professionally. I don't need to train. I'm literally just here to dance and do it for fun. So that's kind of the space I am in now. I ended up doing Nutcracker 2 years ago and last year, and I did it with my home studio. So that was amazing. So much fun to like go and perform again was my dream. And that's kind of the place I'm in now with ballet is like, I recognize it as it's a big part of my identity. And I know that. And I love it. It's therapy for me. Like at night, I lie awake and watch ballet videos all the time. It's like a whole language and a whole thing I'll respect for the rest of my life. You know, it's part of me forever, but it's definitely not something that I wanted to take professional or even would now if I had the opportunity. I don't think I would. So I think at the end of the day, I made all the right decisions for myself, but obviously it's messed me up a lot in many ways that I've talked about before and I will kind of go into now. The first very obvious one being body image issues, you know? And I've talked about it so many times before. I'm not going to reiterate like that, like into that much depth because there's like a YouTube channel, there's a YouTube video on my channel where I kind of go fully in depth of my history with my body image problems. I think it's like my main channel trailer. If you click on it, it's called How to Accept Body Gain or Weight Gain as a Ballerina. Oh, I can't talk today. Cool. So that video goes into depth. My body image podcast too goes into depth, but I just really struggled with body dysmorphia, and I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder, but I definitely had disordered eating. And the thing about the ballet industry is like, you know, it's changing a little bit now, but every idol that we had to look up to, every professional prima ballerina, they were all so teeny tiny, and they all had this body that we aspired to look like, of a perfect arch foot, tiny long legs, and you know, it's just like, it was so, we had to fit into this one box. There wasn't any ballerina that I knew of at the time that maybe had a little bit of more to her or more muscular or this or that. Like all these dancers, all our idols were so tiny. And that's what's so hard for a young girl too, is like, I've explained it, is it's for ballet, it's not that you're just aspiring to be skinny, it's you're aspiring to basically have bone structure that you're not born with, whether it be an arched foot, whether it be bow legs, whether it be like your spine, your butt, your boobs, like it's just everything about it, your turnout, like it's actual bone structure that you can't change. And for a young girl, it's obviously so hard when it's something that you actually can't change. I remember my parents would buy me like these wooden contraptions called foot stretchers, and I would sit with it, like my foot just in this TheraBand. Like I would sleep like that. Sometimes I'd sleep in the middle splits for my turnout. I remember one time I was flying to Europe and I had tied my foot with a TheraBand, tied it around my like back of my foot like this the whole flight because I wanted to get that perfect arch. And that was like the struggle with every single one of my friends and every girl in the studio. Like I don't know one girl that didn't have that issue. And it's so crazy being so young and going through that type of hatred for yourself with other people. And, you know, my friends all had different extremes of it. I have friends that have struggled with severe eating disorders to a point where they have to go to treatment, that we all had to like watch them go through that, or friends that struggled with bulimia that we all had to try to support, and then friends that struggled with like so many other different things, and you're like trying to support each other, but you're so young and you also all hate yourselves. So it was a really hard environment to be in. The lucky thing for me was that my studio and my director and most of my teachers were very supportive when it came to that. I've never had a talk with any teacher that's like, you need to lose weight, or any weight weigh in or anything like that. Like I've heard studios and people that say things like that, but most of the teachers at my studio were very supportive and would never say anything like that to us, regardless of anything. Like there's definitely been the occasional comment from like a really intense teacher of like, oh, I can see your lunch today, or you know, I don't know. I really did not deal with that. Like, that was not the nature of their studio that I went to. It was very much like family based. We're here for fun, but also just like to train and do this. It wasn't like, strict in that way, which I'm really thankful for, because I don't know what I would have spiraled into if that was the case. And, you know, when they would see that girls were struggling, they were really aware of it, and they would call them in, call their parents in. There was one year that a lot of us were really struggling, and I remember that we had this mandatory nutrition meeting that we had to go to, and there was like this woman talking about eating disorders, what it does to your body, and I remember I was in such a bad mindset then that like I'd left the meeting wanting to have an eating disorder. Like, that was not good for me to sit there and hear that. Like, I always envied the girls that had the restriction to not eat. Like, I never had that, and that's so damaging. Like, for such a young girl, it's just so messed up. Another thing that we all struggled with was we would hide our bodies with skirts, because, you know, you have to wear tights and a leotard, but at our studio we kind of had the freedom to wear whatever we wanted. So we would all wear skirts to cover up our thighs, and the idea of not wearing a skirt was the craziest thing to all of us. Like, we had one teacher that would make us take them off, and we would all just cry, like go to the dressing rooms and cry because it was so awful. And at these summer intensives that you go to, we couldn't wear skirts, and we would all like dread the day. Like, it was awful if you couldn't wear a skirt. And at these summer intensives, I do remember they would have nutrition meetings there too, but like, even when I went to the Boston Ballet one, I remember this teacher was like, you know, girls, if you're craving ice cream at night, just replace it out with like some almonds or maybe some fruit. Like, they for real said stuff like that to these young, impressionable girls, which is so messed up for a nutritional meeting. I remember at the time I was just so weird about what I wore. I wouldn't wear leggings. I wouldn't wear anything tight. I would Facetune all my photos from the age of 13 on. Facetune everything. So that was like the biggest struggle that I had with the ballet industry, is just trying to fit this box that I just wasn't, you know. Like, I was such a thin girl for my age. I was underweight, but I still could never reach that ideal thing that I felt like I had to be a part of the ballet industry, you know. And that was just really, really hard on me, and that's a big reason why I had to quit at the time and why I wouldn't go professional, because the thing about going professional is that, you know, I felt like I couldn't eat for the rest of my life, and I would hate myself until the age of 30 or 35, when your body is forced to retire and you make no money. It's like everything about it is just so terrible to me. That's what it sounded like, you know? I remember I had one teacher when I was really struggling. I went to her and I was like, hey, I'm really struggling with my weight, and I just feel like I'm fat and not good enough. And she was like, you know, I really did notice that you've been gaining weight. My recommendation for you is that if you're hungry, why don't you just eat lemon drops? Have lemon drops near you. And I was like, okay. Like, I was so impressionable at the time. It's so terrible to think about now. But I just, you know, it was just so natural and part of it. And all our teachers kind of, you could tell that that's what they also went through and still believed, you know, because there wasn't any change going on in the ballet industry. There weren't any idols we could look up to that looked a little bit different, you know. It's all just this prima ballerina, tiny girl. Another thing that is this big struggle in the ballet industry is like creepy teachers, grooming, all of that. And we didn't experience that as much at our studio. We did have one teacher that would say things that now we all look back, like all my friends, we all think about it and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe we didn't say anything. We had this one teacher who would always pull us aside and be like, hey, when do you turn 18? When do you turn 18? And then there was one year that this teacher was like, hey, Luna, I'm jealous of your boyfriend because he gets to kiss you. Like, he would actually say that. And then one time he was like, oh, you got a new dog? Like, I guess I just need to come over then. And I never realized how messed up this was. I remember one time he like wanted to take a picture with me. He was like, oh, come here, like, let's take a picture. And then he like kissed me on the cheek. I'm like, what are you using this picture for? So creepy, so weird. So that's obviously something that you deal with. Luckily, we didn't have that big of a problem at our studio, but that was a little bit sketch. And I think with like all these new movements, it's definitely gotten better in the ballet industry with when it comes to like talking and speaking up about things. But I feel like at the time for us, it was like, oh, you're not supposed to really bring it up. And then the next thing is like summer intensives. You know, I would say I did have like some good experiences at the summer intensives, and I learned a lot, you know, like, and you learn from different people, you meet different girls. It's like overall a really cool experience. I wouldn't say it's like a negative experience, but I wouldn't say it's like necessary for your whole entire career that you have to spend all this money and go to this training. Like there's plenty of other things that you can do, I feel like, to up your training. But, you know, if you want to get into a company and go to a full year-round school, then you have to kind of go through that process. It does suck that it's so expensive. You know, the ballet industry in general is just so expensive, and I got so lucky, you know, being under a scholarship that I didn't have to pay for tuition. But there's that cost. There's the cost of point shoes, which is about like, for me, $90 a pair. I went through one pair every 2 weeks. So you do the math. It's ridiculous amount of money. The leotards, the tights, the performances, the makeup, the like, if you do competitions, you have to pay for that. Like it's a lot of money. That's the thing about growing up in ballet. It is a lot of money. Another aspect of ballet is obviously the friends that you make, and that's something I wouldn't change for the world. It's probably the best thing that I got out of ballet was my best friends in the world. You make these connections with these girls that go through such, you know, you have this trauma bond almost of like a whole new other language that you guys have in common, a whole other world you have in common that no one else can understand. So you automatically are so bonded to these people for life. It's obviously rocky and hard, as any young friendship relationships are, you know, especially when it comes to ballet, where you guys are all kind of competing for a part or competing because one of your friends is better than you at this, or, you know, is more favorited. So you kind of have to have a really mature mindset, which is hard when you're young and hate yourself. But I wouldn't change the friends. Like the friends aspect of dance are still my closest friends in the world now, are the people I talk to every single day that I can like completely be myself with because they know me better than anything in the world. I didn't have a dance mom in the aspect of like she was so involved and knew my schedule and my teachers and everything like this. But she was very hard on me when it came to my body and things like that. And I've already talked about that. But you have to kind of deal with these other dance moms that kind of shit on you when you get good parts or better parts than their daughters. And that part is kind of crazy. But luckily, I didn't have a mom that was so like vulture over me and controlling me. She kind of let me do what I needed, and I knew my schedule, and she would just drive me there, buy me what I needed, I guess, when I needed it. And that was good. Like, I'm glad I had that freedom and didn't have a mom that was so controlling over what I did. And then when it comes to like tips that I have for you guys that are growing up in this crazy industry, I'd say if you really do want to get ahead, in every class that you take, you kind of have to go into it like you're very eager and willing to learn. You know, if you're just sitting in there all casual and not really paying attention, the teachers aren't going to really favorite you or communicate with you or want to work with making you better. But if you're in there, you're paying attention, every time they give a correction, you're doing it, you're trying to be better and eager and willing to learn. Like that's what the teachers want to see. And that's, I think, something that I mastered with, you know, the lack of technique and things that I had. I was a performer, and that was even in class, you know. I would sit there and be so eager and willing to learn and very attentive, and like, you know, even if I didn't have the best turnout or the best foot arches, the teachers loved me because I was willing to soak in all that information. Another thing is like, put yourself in the front. I know a lot of people think it's so cocky and like whatever to put yourself in the front, but like you're paying to be there and you're paying to take a class to like gain more knowledge. So put yourself out there. Like if you're having an audition, put yourself in the front, be seen. Like the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not accepted, but another thing is like you could be in the back and not be seen, even if you're an amazing dancer. So, you know, put yourself first in that way. Another thing is fucking eat. Like you can't dance and have power like that if you don't nourish your body. And that was something obviously you have to learn over time, is like, it's so weird because you can't be a good dancer if you don't have this energy and this nutrition that you need for your body, but you also believe in your head that you can't be a good dancer unless you're skinny. So it's like such a crazy thing to deal with, but do your best to really feed your body, even on a dance day that you just don't feel like you have time. Bananas, great for potassium, great for cramps. That was my thing. Bananas, always bananas in my bag. Nuts, anything that you can snack on, but just like really make sure that you're giving yourself the nutrition that you need to dance. And then my top tip for you guys is like, perform in every way. That is how I got by with having not the best technique, is that I performed. And whether it be just a rehearsal in the studio, I would smile, I would perform, I would do everything I needed to do. And that's how the teachers and the audience loved me, regardless of if I didn't do my 15 fouettes on stage or whatever. Like, I was able to just like kind of fool everyone by having this upper body and this face that like people loved, because that's kind of what the audience knows about ballet, is like a performer. They don't really know whether your foot is not as turned out as it's supposed to be. If a person doesn't know ballet, it's all about the performance. So I would say in every way, just perform. It's more embarrassing to watch someone in the studio like be embarrassed to like smile or perform or like act than it is when they don't do it. You know what I mean? And then, you know, overall, it's obviously really hard, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, you're not, like, don't go through this and don't feel bad about your body in this, because it's going to happen regardless. I feel like in any sport that you're working on or any art form. But if you are listening to this and you're in high school, just try your hardest to have an observing ego. And I talk about this a lot. It's like, I feel like when I was going through all my issues in high school with ballet in my body, I was so in it and it was so on me and the world is pounding down on me. But at that time, if I'd gone like, okay, this is what I'm going through and I'm kind of above it and I'm like, I'm going to get over this. I'm going to learn from this. Like, maybe it's okay that I didn't get this part because maybe they were just looking for something else, and it's okay. Like, just be okay with that. The universe has its plan and you're just kind of watching yourself go through this life. Obviously, like, work hard and do that, but have that observing ego and know that there's like this different plan for you, which, oh my God, like, I don't know if any high school girl is actually going to do that, but if you can, I feel like you're just going to have the best time with ballet. And I wish I could do that more than anything and go back and just have that experience again and not be so hard on myself, because it's so sad. It's such a beautiful thing. Ballet is so beautiful and amazing, but when you just train yourself to hate everything about yourself and look in the mirror and just cry every day like I did, it ruins so much of it for you, you know? So that is everything for this podcast episode about ballet. If you guys are going through it, I'm here for you. If you're looking to get into ballet, I say you should. I think over anything, I wouldn't regret, like, I don't regret doing ballet and doing it as rigorously as I did, because it taught me so much diligence. It gave me the best friends in the world. I'm so happy that I have this whole other world of knowledge in my back pocket that I can have for life. How cool is that? And yeah, I think ballet is so beautiful and stunning, and we should keep supporting it and go find a ballet near you. Go see shows. Go like take a beginner ballet class. Just do it. It's so great. And I love you guys so much. And that was my episode. Thank you for listening to On Point. I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.